Let me preface this entire video with something very important. I love Hotline Miami. If you haven't checked it out, it is an amazing game, amazing indie game, developed by only 2 people. Now, the second one is amazing too, and I will be talking about the second one, but I think it's more important to focus on Hotline Miami as a whole. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as much as possible because it's a very intriguing and slightly confusing story that I would recommend playing for yourself if you can. The games are on basically every platform. Some platforms as the Hotline Miami collection, 1 and 2 in one game, and some you have to buy both games separately. Anyway, into the actual video. Hotline Miami is a game that was released in 2012 by dual developer team Denton Games. But this isn't a history lesson about Hotline Miami. This is why I love Hotline Miami, and why I hope that you do too, or will. Hotline Miami 1 has you take control of the protagonist, Jacket. Now, Hotline Miami 2 has you switching protagonists all the time, and has you play as several different protagonists throughout the course of the story, but we're going to be focusing on one for now. Hotline Miami 1's protagonist, Jacket, is the chicken mask wearing murderer that you play as throughout the course of the main story. This is not including the post-credits story where you play as Biker, which is a whole nother character who is great, but Jacket is not a great person, and neither is Biker, to be fair. They murder a bunch of people, like a lot, throughout the course of the first game. And that's not even including some of the other stuff that probably happened outside of the course of the games. But from what we know, Jacket has killed several Russian mafia members, and he is coerced by what he thinks is the Russian mafia. Jacket never talks throughout the course of the first game, or even the second. We have heard people talking about how he speaks, like for example in the court scene in the second game, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. In Hotline Miami 1, Jacket is left alone in his apartment as he starts receiving phone calls from a mysterious voice. They give strange instructions that are actually code to go to locations and take out the people inside those buildings. It usually goes through a formula of this. You wake up in your apartment, you hear a phone call, you pick up the phone, and you go to location, kill Russian mobsters, head back to apartment after dropping by convenience store, bar, or pizza place. Rinse and repeat throughout most of the game. There are some levels that switch it up a bit, but that's most of what the game is. But the special thing is not what happens in between those levels. It's what happens in those murder sprees in the levels. Jacket proceeds to find every weapon that he possibly can and take out the Russian mobsters that are inside those buildings. And he has a deadly efficiency. There are some other characters in Hotline Miami 2 that you play as that aren't as straightforward as Jacket is in the first game. Hotline Miami 1 is a very simple game, and the mechanics are the same throughout basically every level. The only different mechanics are with Biker, who cannot pick up any weapons, but has 3 throwing knives at his disposal, as well as a cleaver that is always in his hands. Jacket can switch through any weapon that he finds on the floor, be it baseball bat, or knife, or assault rifle, or even a bottle that he can throw sometimes. There are a lot of weapons. A lot. In Hotline Miami 2, though, it plays a lot differently, because each character has different mechanics towards their self. Some a little different, some are very similar to the base style. Let's start with one of the characters who's very similar to the base style, Detective Manny Pardo. Now, I'm not going to spoil any of the plotline. Well, I'll try to avoid it as much as I can, but Pardo finds himself at a building with a bunch of delinquents inside, and he proceeds to kill everyone in a very similar style to Jacket. The only unique thing about Pardo's character gameplay-wise is that he's the only character that can perform ground takedowns with guns. Most characters would just, like, bash someone to death, even if a gun is in their hands, but Pardo directly does a unique interaction with each gun that he has. And then, on the other side of the spectrum, there's an entirely unique character in the form of Evan Wright, who is a writer. A bit on the nose, but hey, it's passable, because Evan Wright is such an amazing character. Evan is the only character that you can play the entire game as a pacifist. Evan's base mechanic is that he has to be directly prompted to kill someone. You have to enter this kill state by beating 2 enemies to death in one level. And you have to directly do this. You can't really do this by accident. You have to force yourself into it. So for most people, what they see in the first playthrough is this guy who picks up weapons, but can't use anything lethal, and if he picks up a gun, he unloads it. And it makes a really interesting gameplay style. I love playing Pacifist Right, personally. I've seen some people who prefer Rampage Right, which is completely fair because he's pretty strong, but there's just something so unique about the character when he's in pacifist mode. Another very unique character is in the form of Alex and Ash. Dual characters who you both play as at the same time. Alex being one of the swans and Ash being the other one. I almost said Alex again. Whatever. Alex being one of the swans, Ash being the other swan. Alex carries a chainsaw, and she mows through enemies with the primary fire button, but you can press the alt fire button with Ash to fire his gun. And he can be used with the targeting. He's a lot more janky to control than Alex is, because Alex is a primary, and Ash just follows her, but still one of my favorite characters to play in the game. Some of the characters copy other characters' abilities, like for example, the group of people that the fans, which is the group of people that Alex and Ash are from, all of their abilities except for Alex and Ash's are mimicked by another character, the Sun, who is played as later in the game. Anyway, Hotline Miami 2 is a lot different than Hotline Miami 1, as you have probably already figured out by now. And some of the differences are a lot more noticeable than others. Like, for example, Hotline Miami 2 is 1,000 times harder than Hotline Miami 1, even implementing a hard mode and an integrated achievement system. Whereas some consoles and, like, Steam had achievements for Hotline Miami 1, Hotline Miami 2 integrated the achievements into the game. And they are some tough ones. Like, for example, beat the game on hard mode. That's pretty straightforward, still difficult. Took me around 10 hours to complete that one. But there's also get an A+ rating on all levels, which is not just the main story, but also the bonus level, which is, well, it can be difficult, but it's pretty straightforward. Anyway, I just thought I'd make this short little video about Hotline Miami. If you guys want to follow up where I talk about the story, I can totally do that. I just need some time. Just thought I'd let you guys know that recording is a little bit difficult because I need to find the right time to do it, I don't have like any specific recording area. It's only really like in this house, and I don't have a lot of good time to do it. It's part of the reason I don't make very long videos. But I will see you another time, and hopefully I can start making more videos and not spread them out a bunch. Bye.